My original interest in vinyl and stereo equipment comes from me in my household. Growing up with my mom and my dad, three rules in my household. Don't go in the closet where my father's records was. He was a collector of records, and don't go into the living room, and don't touch the stereo. And the stereo lived in the living room. Three rules. And to make, I can't go into the detail that the book does, but I will say this: when my father would go to work, I would wait for the door to slam, and I would uh go into the kitchen and grab a chair and drag it to the closet where these records lived, and I would open up, stand on my tippy toes and open up the knob and go in there and grab this black piece of plastic that had tunnels in it. But before I did that, I had to watch my father's ritual. He would come home from work, go into his closet, get a record, go to the stereo, and sit in his favorite chair and sort of de-stress from a day's work. And after watching him, I decided to do it myself. And then after taking that record out of the closet, I guess probably for me, I had always wondered, how does music live inside those little black tunnels? I think when I first got my first bike, when you get your first bike, you usually want to put it together as quickly as possible and go ride biking with your buddies, and I didn't want to do that. I was intrigued with turning the bike upside down and turning both wheels until they stopped spinning. And then I came up with an idea. I needed something that spun around. So what I did is I would get a wrench and remove the front wheel off the fork, and I would put it on the ground and I would spin it on its axle. And then while it was in the spinning motion, I would take a record and I would place the center hole on the axle, and this would also cause the record to spin. And I would put a sewing needle inside these black tunnels, and that would sort of send up a vibration to my fingers, and I kind of would hear through my fingers, so to speak. And this gave me the answer. Oh, so music lives inside these little black tunnels. And then it was a matter of just trying to figure out, with electrical equipment, how do you put these black tunnels and put this arm down, and how does sound come out of this box, talking about a stereo. And I started watching DJs again, and what I noticed is that how they would handle the record was like with kid gloves, very careful with the edges, and how they would put it on the turntable, and how they would sort of have these velvet brushes, and they would sort of clean the record. And watching that process didn't give me the answers that I really, really needed. So one day I just sort of let the record play while the arm was on this area, and then I just put my hand on the vinyl. I stopped it, and the silence kind of just, I don't know if the silence sort of talked to me maybe. I said, oh my God, I can control something here. And then the biggest problem was that, when you buy your turntable, you get this big piece of rubber, that big fat pancake piece of rubber it was causing too much drag. I need something to give me more fluidity with controlling and breaking and clutching the vinyl. So what I did was I would go to a fabric store, and I would bring my album with me, and I would buy just the right amount of felt, and I would trace that, cut it out the exact size of the album, and this flimsy felt still wasn't the answer. So what I did was I thought about it for a minute, and I says, well, I had to wait for my mother to not be looking, dump the water out of the iron, and get some spray starch, turn it all the way up to high, and then iron the felt on both sides. And when I did that, the felt became like a wafer. And this became the buffer between a turntable that spins and the record. So if I move the record in a backward and forward motion, or if I even move it in a counterclockwise motion while the platter was spinning that way, I wouldn't interfere with the torque of the platter. And people, DJs, weren't very happy with me because I was touching the body of records where you weren't supposed to do that, and how I was handling records and wasn't supposed to do that. And so
you did a lot of things that it sounds like, no one else was doing. And is what you're saying that having the MCs kind of created a space for you to experiment the way you wanted to because people could focus a little bit on the MC and a little bit on you as well?
I was a shy kid coming up. So if you're watching me too long, I would screw up. So I really didn't want you to look at me. I wanted you to just jam. I wanted you to just go get lost, go jam. So when Cowboy would go into his sort of aerobicizing type of rhyming to make people throw their hands up and do things, now the attention was off me. Great. So now I can go into the crate and play this stuff. Man, I've been always trying to play without screwing up and getting nervous, because nobody's watching me. I'm in my own world. I'm pretending I'm in my bedroom and the crowd's going crazy, and it's a wonderful thing.